The river moved like a living dream, carrying with it the soft whisper of forgotten moments and the hidden promises of tomorrow, and along its shimmering surface danced the golden light of dawn, warming the cool breath of morning, as if nature itself was singing an ancient song of calm and wonder. And upon its gentle banks walked a young soul whose heart carried both longing and quiet hope for the world that unfolded before them, felt wide open and full of endless paths waiting to be discovered and embraced. They walked with slow steps, listening to the melodies rising from the flowing water, and each sound seemed to echo a memory not fully formed yet deeply familiar, like a lullaby heard in childhood, or the murmur of a story once told under the shade of an old tree. And the air smelled of fresh earth and wild flowers, carrying the softness of the early day, and as they moved closer to the water they felt something stir within them, a tender awareness that this river held more than simple beauty. It held stories waiting to be heard, and maybe even stories waiting to be lived. The trees along the edge leaned gently as if bowing to the river, the tall shadows stretching across the ground weaving a tapestry of light and darkness, and the leaves rustled softly like a chorus greeting the new day. And the traveler paused, breathing deeply, letting the music of nature settle into their chest, filling them with a peaceful rhythm that matched the quiet pulse of the river. And in that moment the world felt both vast and intimate, a place where one could lose themselves and yet somehow find themselves at the very same time. With every step they felt drawn closer to the edge, where the sunlight played upon the water in delicate ripples, and as they knelt beside the river they dipped their fingers into the cool stream, letting the gentle current glide over their skin like the touch of something ancient, wise and endlessly patient. And they watched the tiny waves shift and scatter around their hand as though greeting them with a soft welcome, and it felt as if the river recognized them not by face but by spirit, by the quiet dreams they carried and the questions they did not speak aloud. Across the flowing water the world mirrored itself in shimmering patterns, the sky reflecting on the surface in shades of soft blue and pale gold, and for a moment it was impossible to tell where the heavens ended and the river began, for everything seemed connected, woven together by threads unseen yet undeniably strong, threads that held together memories, seasons, and the endless flow of life. And in that reflection they saw a glimpse of themselves, not as they were but as they could be, shaped by moments of choice, chance, and change. The traveler rose slowly, letting the breeze brush across their face, carrying with it a distant echo, a soft hum that seemed to come from somewhere further down the river. And it was faint at first, like a quiet note drifting through air, but as they listened it grew clearer, turning into a subtle melody that wove itself through the wind and water, and the sound beckoned them, pulling at something deep inside their heart, urging them to follow and discover the source of that gentle, mysterious song. They moved along a narrow path traced by countless footsteps before them, the earth worn smooth beneath their feet, and the morning sunlight filtered through the trees, casting warm patterns that shifted with every step. And though the world around them was calm, the melody continued, weaving through the air like a voice calling their name, though no words were spoken. And they felt a strange sense of belonging, as though they were not simply wandering but returning to a place that had been waiting for them all along. As they continued, the song of the river grew clearer, interlacing with the melody carried by the breeze, and together they formed a harmony that resonated deep within the soul, a harmony that spoke of beginnings, of endings, and of journeys that shaped the very core of who one becomes. And the traveler felt the rhythm guiding their steps, encouraging them to trust the path ahead even though they could not yet see where it would lead, for the sound filled them with calm courage and a gentle curiosity. Soon the trees thinned and the river widened, revealing a small clearing bathed in soft light where the air felt warmer and the sound of the melody floated stronger than before. And at the center of the clearing stood an old wooden bridge, its planks weathered by time yet sturdy in their quiet strength, stretching gracefully over the river as though connecting not just two sides of land but two worlds of experience and possibility. And the sight of the bridge stirred a flutter within the traveler, a whisper of destiny shaping itself in the present moment. They approached the bridge slowly, taking in the grain of the wood, the gentle creak beneath their weight, and the way the river sang beneath it, carrying stories in every ripple and every gleam of sunlight. And as they stood at the center of the bridge they closed their eyes, letting the melody wrap around them like a soft embrace, and the song felt intertwined with the river itself, flowing through time, memory, and emotion like a thread, tying moments together in ways that transcended understanding. The traveler felt the world grow still, as though the river held its breath, waiting for something, waiting for them. And when they opened their eyes they noticed someone standing at the far end of the bridge, a figure partially lit by the morning light, someone who seemed to have been drawn by the same mysterious melody that had guided the traveler. And for a moment time felt suspended as the sound of the river rose between them like an introduction waiting to be spoken. The figure at the far end of the bridge stepped gently into the light, revealing a calm presence wrapped in the soft colors of morning, and their eyes held a quiet depth, as if they too had been listening to the ancient melodies of the river for a long time. And the traveler felt a strange familiarity, as though they had met before in a dream or in a moment that had slipped between their memories, like water flowing through open hands, and the air between them trembled with the soft harmony rising from the moving stream below. They moved closer with slow steady steps, each one echoing across the wooden planks, and when they finally stood within reach, the breeze carried the river song between them, weaving their breaths, their thoughts and the quiet hopes into a single gentle thread that connected one soul to another. And the figure smiled with a softness that felt like sunrise blooming over still waters, and though no words formed between them, something unspoken passed, flowing just as naturally as the river itself. Together they stood at the center of the bridge, watching as the world reflected itself in the water below, where the sky, trees and drifting clouds blended into one shimmering canvas, and in that reflection they saw not only themselves but also the possibility of shared paths waiting beyond the morning light. And the river seemed to sing more brightly, as if celebrating the meeting of two wanderers whose journeys had quietly led them to this single point of connection. The traveler felt a gentle warmth spreading through their chest, a warmth that traveled with the rhythm of the melody surrounding them, and the figure beside them seemed to sense it, for they breathed in deeply, letting the sound sink into their spirit as though it carried memories long held and long cherished. And they turned the gaze toward the far bank of the river, where the land opened into rolling fields brushed with sunlight and scattered with wildflowers swaying in the soft breeze. Without speaking, they began walking together, steps aligned as though drawn by the same invisible guide, and each footfall matched the tender pulse of the river song, blending with the quiet rustle of leaves surrounding them. And as the path curved along the water, their shadows stretched and shifted, dancing across the earth like silent companions, bearing witness to the growing bond between them, and the world around them hummed with a gentle harmony that felt both new and ancient. They continued along the river's edge, following the winding path that twisted between tall grass and soft earth, and soon the melody that had guided them softened into a gentle hum, blending with the natural music of the flowing stream and chirping birds and rustling branches. And the air felt warmer now, touched by the late morning sun, whose rays filtered through the canopy in glowing fragments, scattering light across their journey like tiny blessings whispered by nature itself. As they walked, the traveler felt a curious sense of comfort beside the figure, comfort that arose not from conversation but from presence itself, for sometimes silence spoke louder than words, threading emotions through the heart with exquisite tenderness, and they sensed that the person walking with them carried their own stories, shaped by victories, losses, smiles, tears and quiet hopes. Yet the river seemed to assure them that every story flowed toward a shared horizon where understanding bloomed naturally. The path led them to a gentle bend in the river where the water widened, forming a small natural pool shimmering under the golden touch of sunlight, and the figure knelt beside it, trailing their hand along the surface, watching the ripples expand in delicate circles. And the traveler knelt beside them, drawn by the calm beauty before them, and together they watched the patterns of light ripple, whisper and drift across the pool like tiny fragments of memory floating freely in the soft warmth of day. They sat together on a smooth stone warmed by the sun, their reflections merging on the surface of the clear water, and in that moment it felt as if the river itself welcomed them into a quiet sanctuary, a place where time slowed and the heart could simply exist without haste, expectation or fear. And the breeze brushed gently against their faces, carrying the scent of wildflowers and distant pine, and it filled their lungs with a peaceful promise of moments yet to unfold. As they rested, the traveler felt the weight of their journey easing, as if the river had lifted part of their burden, carrying it downstream into the vast unknown where worries dissolved into flowing time. And the figure beside them seemed to feel the same, for their shoulders relaxed and their breath softened, matching the rhythm of the gentle current, and the shared stillness felt like a silent conversation spoken only through the language of presence, trust and unspoken understanding. The song of the river rose softly again, weaving itself through their thoughts and memories, and the sound reminded them that every meeting held meaning, shaped by the quiet dance of destiny and choice. And the traveler turned to look at the figure, whose gaze rested on the shimmering water, and their eyes reflected a tenderness that echoed the melody around them, a tenderness that carried both gratitude and curiosity, as though this meeting had touched something deep within their spirit. The traveler felt their hearts stir with a sensation both new and familiar, a feeling that brought warmth to their cheeks and a gentle flutter to their breath. And though they did not speak, the figure understood, sensing the shift in the air between them, for the river seemed to whisper through the ripples that some connections bloom without the need for words, and some songs are best felt rather than heard. And together they let the moment unfold naturally, without rush and without fear. Eventually the sun climbed higher, casting brilliant shards of light across the water, and the traveler rose, stretching softly before gazing down the path ahead, where the river continued its endless journey, weaving between hills, valleys and unseen stories yet to be discovered. And the figure stood beside them, ready to follow, for their hearts now moved with the same rhythm, guided by the same gentle melody that had led them to each other. With a shared breath they stepped forward, continuing along the riverbank, letting the soft song guide them deeper into the unfolding day. And though they did not know where the path would lead, they walked with quiet certainty, trusting that the river would reveal what needed to be seen when the moment was right. And as they walked together, the world around them shimmered with possibility, like sunlight dancing on flowing water. The river flowed beside them with a steady calming rhythm guiding their steps as they moved deeper along the winding path, and the sunlight shimmered across the surface like threads of gold, weaving quiet promises into the day. And as they walked, the harmony of nature wrapped around them, carrying the gentle murmur of distant waters and the soft rustling of leaves high above, whispering secrets that only the wind could understand. And the traveler felt each moment settling into their heart like petals drifting onto still water. They passed through a stretch of land where tall grass swayed in slow, graceful waves, responding to the touch of the breeze as though performing a silent dance just for them. And the figure beside the traveler brushed their fingertips against the tips of the grass, feeling the warmth that had gathered there from the sun, and a peaceful silence settled between them, a silence that felt whole, not empty, a silence shaped by shared presence, by the quiet blooming of trust, and by the song of the river gently echoing in every breath. Soon they reached a place where the river narrowed and quickened, leaping over smooth stones with playful energy, sending glimmers of light scattering in all directions like tiny stars awakened by the day. And the sound filled the air with joyful motion, lifting their spirits and drawing them closer to the edge. And the traveler knelt to watch the clear water rush past, carrying with it small fragments of leaves and drifting petals that spun in delicate spirals before continuing onward into the unknown. The figure joined them, kneeling in the soft earth, and together they watched the river swell and dance, its voice rising stronger and brighter as if singing a celebration of movement, change, and the unstoppable flow of life. And in the lively current the traveler felt a message, something subtle yet unmistakable, a reminder that every journey demands motion, that every heart learns and grows through each twist and turn, and that even still moments like the one they shared were part of the greater flow shaping their path. They rose again, following the river as it curved gently through a meadow filled with wildflowers blooming in bold and tender colors, their fragrance drifting through the warm air like a sweet invitation. And the traveler reached out, brushing a petal between their fingers, feeling its delicate softness, and the figure smiled, watching them with a warmth that deepened as sunlight touched their face. And in that simple exchange something gentle and meaningful passed between them, like a quiet vow carried on the breeze. The meadow opened into a hill sloping upward, and they climbed slowly side by side, the grass brushing against their legs and the river glistening below them like a flowing ribbon of silver. And when they reached the top they paused, letting the view settle into their senses, for from that height the world stretched wide and open, filled with rolling fields, distant forests, and the endless path of the river winding toward the horizon where the sky melted into soft hues of blue and gold. The traveler felt the vastness of it all settle within him, a mixture of serenity and wonder rising in their chest. And the figure beside them stood quietly, understanding without words, for the river had led them here not just to show them the beauty of the world, but to show them the unfolding beauty of their own hearts. And the melody that had followed them since morning brushed through the air again, soft, delicate, and full of meaning, like a whisper carried by the soul of the river itself. They sat upon the hill, feeling the warmth of the earth beneath them and the soft hum of life surrounding them, from the buzzing of small insects to the distant call of birds riding the wind. And the traveler leaned back, resting their weight into the gentle ground, and the figure sat close, allowing their shoulders to touch lightly, a touch that felt natural, effortless, and filled with a quiet reassurance. And together they watched the river far below, continuing its journey with unwavering grace. Time moved softly around them, unhurried and kind, and as the sun slowly began its descent the light mellowed into warm amber tones, casting long shadows and giving the world a dreamlike glow. And the traveler felt the moment imprint itself deeply within their memory, like a soft engraving carved by emotion and connection. And the figure turned to them, the gaze reflecting the golden light, carrying both tenderness and a sense of openness that invited trust and closeness. The traveler nodded gently, acknowledging the unspoken understanding that passed between them, and they both rose, stepping down the hill once more, following the river as it curved through the evening landscape. And with each step the world grew quieter, as though listening closely, as though the river itself wanted to witness the unfolding of their journey together. And the air around them thickened with the gentle calm of dusk, wrapping them in a soft embrace. As the sky shifted into shades of rose and deepening blue, the river slowed again, its surface smoothing into a mirror that reflected the emerging stars and the soft glow of twilight. And the traveler felt the coolness of the approaching night settle on their skin, blending with the warmth of the day still lingering in their chest. And the figure walked close, their presence steady, comforting, and filled with the same quiet melody that had guided them from the beginning. They reached a quiet bank where the grass grew soft and thick and the river widened like a peaceful heart opening for rest. And they sat together by the edge, listening to the whisper of water lapping gently against the shore. And the traveler felt the moment settle around them like a gentle cloak of calm and gratitude, while the melody of the river wove itself through their thoughts, forming a story that felt both personal and shared. The figure reached down, picking up a small smooth stone and placed it gently upon the traveler's palm, and the stone felt cool, serene, and worn by countless years of river flow, carrying within it a silent echo of time. And the traveler closed their fingers around it, feeling the soft weight settle in their hand like a promise, and they looked toward the figure, whose expression was filled with kindness and quiet sincerity. And in that look the traveler understood that the river had not only guided the journey but had also guided their meeting. Together they leaned closer, listening to the soft murmur of the water as stars began to shimmer above them, and the river reflected the gentle glow, creating a path of light that stretched into the distance, and the air around them filled with the hush of night, settling slowly across the land like a tender lullaby. And the traveler felt their heart align with the steady rhythm of the flowing water, calm, full, and deeply connected. And as the river continued its timeless song, flowing onward into the unknown, it carried with it the beginning of a shared journey, a story shaped by quiet moments, gentle melodies, and the soft, trusting bond between two souls drawn together by the songs of the river.